Thank you for tuning in to the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte. This is Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, the Marriage Coach. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for tips and advice on all matters of marriage. Be sure to like us on Facebook by searching for Marriage Matters so that you can stay abreast of topics, ask questions, or comment during our interactive segment of Marriage Matters. Also, check out our website at www.ittakes2marriagecoaching.com for more information on our services. Our show sponsor for today is It Takes Two Marriage Coaching. It Takes Two provides individual marriage coaching and group marriage coaching through marriage retreats. Today, we are going to finish up a topic from last week. Last week, we had a full conversation about, can your marriage survive the blendedness? Referring to the family blendedness, referring to us putting together families that maybe were already family units before getting to the space of marriage. So that might be a situation where mom has a child, dad does not, and then they marry, or dad has a child, mom does not, and then they marry, or both parents have children prior to marrying each other, and then they marry and they become one family unit. Last week on our show, we had two young adults who was bringing us information on the perspective of what it's like to be a child growing up in a blended family home. And they gave us some really great advice that we definitely wanted to have them back again this week. So in the studio with us today, we have Mr. Joel.
Hey, how you doing? Glad to be back.
Glad to have you, Joel. Just want to remind our listeners, you are 21 years old.
Correct.
And you grew up in a blended family.
Correct.
Awesome. And then I've got my very own little one in the studio today. I call her little one, but she's looking at me like I'm not little anymore, Mom. So she's 14, Miss Kyla.
Hi.
Glad to have you in the studio with us today.
Aren't we all?
Anywho, all right, so we're going to jump right into this because today I really want us to have we kind of ran out of time last week. I want to make sure we get a chance to hit all the topics that I have for us today because I really want to take the opportunity to get the opinion of children, and I refer to you all as children in reference to your growing up in the blended family. You were children. Kyla's still on the upper end of that in the house, but Joel, you're grown out of the house doing your own thing now, but you came out of a blended family.
Correct.
So, all right, so let's just jump right into this. I know last week we had the opportunity to kind of talk about how did you meet your step parent? How did you feel when the wedding occurred? How did your parents include you in that process? So this week I want to talk more about, now we've gotten past that. Now we're actually in the family. Your parents are married. They're together now. You all are all living under one roof. How did your parents make it work? What strategies did they use? What strategies did you come up with for coping skills to kind of process and deal with the whole thing? And how did you all just make the whole family unit work? So let's start here. Remind us really quickly of what your family unit looks like, Joel.
All right, so it's me, it's my mom, then my stepdad. He has 4 children. But at the time, only one lived with us.
Okay.
And he was actually close to me in age.
And how close was he to you in age?
Just a couple months younger than me. So I was the older sibling.
Okay.
I've always been the oldest.
Oh.
So.
Okay. But so you were the oldest sibling and you all were just a few months apart in age.
Right.
And was he male or, well, obviously
male.
He was male.
He
okay.
was male.
So two young boys in the house and then your mom and your stepdad.
Correct.
All right. Now, Kyla, refresh our memory of what your blended family looked like.
So it's me, you, of course, my stepdad, and my 2 little sisters.
All right. Speaking of step, just real quick, because I think this is kind of a quick question I want to ask, and it's an interesting topic amongst folks who are blended families. What do you call
Dad.
The parent that is not your biological parent, and do you refer to them as step parent? Are they're just their names? What is your reference to when you're saying you need to run to the store and you're calling them to take you to the store? What do you refer to them as? And I don't care who goes first.
Well, I refer to my dad as Dad.
Okay. So have you ever referred to him as your stepdad?
Well, no, not necessarily to him, but if people ask me, like they're like, oh, who's that? I'm like, oh, that's just my stepdad. But in general, if you know me very well, I just call him Dad.
Okay. And Joel?
I actually call my stepdad Ronnie. That's his name. Um, I've never really actually called anybody dad, really. I never was close to my biological dad, so we didn't really have a relationship. I never was comfortable using the word dad to anybody, so I always called him Ronnie. Now, if someone asks me or if I'm explaining it, I'll say, well, that's my stepdad. But as far as me calling anybody anything, I'll say Ronnie.
Ronnie, gotcha. Okay, all right, that's good stuff. So, I'd be willing to bet that your age and probably even gender probably has some things to do with the way you reference them. I know,
Yeah,
Kyla, you
definitely.
were very young when you met Maurice. You were 3, and Joel, you were 11.
Yeah, 11.
So you were already a little older. Kyla was still a little younger. Do you remember, Kyla? This question is for you. Do you
Yes,
remember the
ma'am.
first time that you called Maurice dad?
I remember that we were at the house and I was playing around, and then it just kind of came out. Like,
You were playing with him, or
yeah, we were just like playing around,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it came natural. I don't know.
So I'll refresh your memory. So Maurice and I remember it very vividly, and we bring it up sometime. And I know that there's listeners out there who may have experienced this and kind of wonder, what do you do in that situation? But I remember we were in the living room. I believe I was just kind of chilling on the couch, and you and Maurice were on the floor, like wrestling and playing around. And it was very out the blue. You said daddy or something, dad or daddy. And I remember we all kind of stopped for like probably about 3 seconds. It was a quick pause. And he looked at me. You looked at you. I think you looked at him. He looked at me. And then y'all continued to play. And I remember that night you were sleeping by this point. And he asked me, he said, did you hear Kyla call me dad? And I said, yeah, I did. I was like, how did you feel about that? And I remember him saying that it felt wonderful. So he has no biological children. He at that point had no biological children, and I remember him being very excited about the fact that you felt that you all were close enough for you to call him dad. And so, just as another tidbit to any parent that's listening out there now, you want to make sure that anytime when it gets to that place where, maybe somebody's calling somebody dad, or somebody start calling them stepdad or names or whatever, you all are having conversations about that, because you do want to make sure your children feel comfortable in that. I will be willing to bet that, Kyla, if Maurice was mean to you, or someone that was not playful with you, or somebody that was not engaging with you, you probably would have never referred to him as dad.
Nope.
So I think it's very important that as we're connecting parents to children, that we're accepting and we're open to our stepchildren, because that's the only way they're going to really embrace you as a real parent to them. Otherwise, they'll always kind of look at you as, that's my mama's boyfriend, or that's my daddy's girlfriend,
Right.
or whatever. They don't really see the connection to them. It's really the connection to the parent, right?
Yes.
So I just thought I'd point that out. It was pretty cool. All right, so Joel, you brought up an interesting topic. You said you've never really called anybody dad.
Correct.
Because you don't have a close bond with your biological dad.
Right.
Do you think the fact that you don't have a close bond with your biological dad has affected your relationship with Ronnie, as you refer to him, or as your current stepdad?
Well, in a sense, I think it has. Me and Ronnie have never had any trouble. Mm-hmm. Never. Not one time have we even gotten into an argument. I respect everything he says. And as someone that didn't really have a male in my life to teach me things, see, my real dad, he made me motivated to be the best father I can. My stepdad prepared me to be the best father I can. So it's just
that, Joe.
It helped
Okay.
to have him in my life.
So it was a
But
benefit.
It was definitely a benefit, because see, now I have someone I could talk to, and someone I could really share my problems with. Like my mom, she was always my mom and my dad,
Right.
but she can't teach me how to be a man.
Exactly.
Nobody can, you know what I'm saying, except a male. So having him was a definite plus, and it helped me out a lot.
That's good stuff. So speaking of relationships with biological parents, oftentimes where the waters get muddy and where families start having struggles is when biological parent and step parent begin to interact and attempt to co-parent. um, I want to know, and I know you all kind of have similar perspectives on this, but you're going to be able to give us a version from a male and an older male. Joel and Kyla, you're going to be able to give me that younger female perspective. What do you think are some of the challenges that came about? I want to talk about the strengths too. And you hit the strengths. You hit one strength, and I think that's awesome. But what were some of the challenges that came about when it came time to, or if it ever happened, when it came time to your biological parent meeting your step parent?
Like my biological dad meeting I don't think they've ever met.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. I've only really seen my dad, like my real biological dad, like 2 or 3 times in that long run. So
during that time that you were in a relationship with, during the time that your stepdad was in the picture, you only saw your biological dad 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I've since like it's been 10, 11, 12 years,
Right.
But they've never met or even had a conversation. I'm sure there may be something I may not know, like my mom may not hear from me or anything, but I know my mom has maybe had 1 or 2 conversations with him, but outside of that, we really don't talk to my biological father that often.
Gotcha. Okay. Kyla, do you
Yes,
recall, or do you ever remember your biological dad meeting your current dad?
I do, actually. It was the time I was going to spend time with my biological dad once. You guys had dropped me off it's like a little Chuck E. Cheese, but in Kentucky. And they spoke, they shook hands, and that was that. That was about it. Mm-hmm. As far as I know, that's all the communication that I've seen between them two.
Yeah. And it really doesn't get that much more extensive than that. There has been some phone communications. But beyond that, that's basically been the extent of their conversation. And so what I want to kind of touch on for our listeners is, if you are in a situation where you're co-parenting, there should definitely be more communication than what you two experience.
Correct.
Because if you're both parenting the same child, y'all got to be in communication about what's going on with that child. And y'all got to be on the same page about how you're going to lead and guide and steer that child in the right direction. But I know in both of your situations, you were kind of in a position where you didn't really have a relationship with your biological parent, and they weren't pushing in to have that relationship. So there was really nobody to communicate with in order to co-parent together.
Right.
But so where most of the co-parenting probably occurred is between your step parent now and your biological parent. So let's kind of talk about that relationship and how that co-parenting worked. Do you recall, Joel? So I know you've been grown for a while.
Right.
Few little years. Do you recall how decisions were made in your house in reference to you?
Like as far as like discipline or...
Discipline. Maybe we were just talking about, what college you were going to go to, what you were going to do with your life.
As far as like important decisions, I always made sure that my mom and my stepdad were a part of those decisions. Mm-hmm. Ronnie is important to me. I love him as my real father, and I feel like he should be a part of the decisions as well. And also, it affects him, everything,
right.
Because they are one.
Right.
So everything I do not only affects my mother, but it affects him as well. So with decisions, we all make sure that we all were a part of the decisions, regardless of what it was. Even with my stepbrother, we all sit down and talk about it, and make sure that everything. And my mom will always say, well, you need to ask Ronnie.
Mm-hmm. She included him in the decision making.
She made sure that he was included in the decision making.
Yeah.
Not just let me, just talk to her about it, but she would make sure that I talk to both of them about it.
Yeah.
As far as discipline, really, I wouldn't say that what Ronnie does was discipline me, but he gives me the perfect advice I need to make it, to better myself, to become a better man. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's like, go to your room or give you a whooping, but this is what I've been through. and this is what I learned from it, and I'm trying to teach you so you don't have to go through it. I'm trying to give you an advance on life, on, you know, the way to be in life. So it was always like, you know, not really discipline, but it was advice.
Yeah.
Letting me know this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
From a man's perspective, a grown man perspective that's already been there and done that.
Love that. That's excellent, Joel. I mean, you could have. There could be a whole whole segment just on what you just hit on right there. I mean, it's so important, you know, for my listeners out there. It's so important as we are blending families together that we make the effort to include the other parent.
Right.
Even when we're not even talking about blendedness. Just in, you know, regular two-parent households that are both biological parents, oftentimes it becomes, oh, wait till your daddy get home. And it's daddy does all the discipline and mama's out of it. Or, you know, only mama knows certain things and dad doesn't know certain things. Or only dad knows certain things. Oftentimes we are not doing this thing together. And in marriage, everything we do has to be as a team.
Right.
And so I love, love, love the fact that your mom always included Ronnie in the decision.
And it actually made me more comfortable. And it made me talk to them more often. Because now I have the perspective of both of y'all. And in my house, nothing is really closed. We're very open.
Yeah.
We try to be because that's a good way to live. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to hide nothing from my family because if nobody knows where I'm at all times, somebody's going to know where I'm at all times, which is my mom or Ronnie.
Can you tell it to Kyla real quick?
Oh, yeah, definitely Kyla. Make sure your parents always know, no matter what it is, because you never know what could happen. Your parents always got to know. I don't even let my friends know where I'm at all the time because, you know, it shouldn't be like that. You know, you should have your times where you could be alone. But my mom always knows. Even at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get that text message like, you good?
And you're 21, she's still checking up on you.
Yeah, and she did it last night. You good? I always got to text her back like, yeah, mom, you know, I'm all right. But it's just the fact that she cares, and I know she cares, and someone needs to know where I'm at, regardless, because anything can happen. Anything.
10-4.
Put nothing
give you a
past
tip
anybody.
at the end of this show, Joelle. All right, so Kyla,
Yes,
so tell
mother.
me, in our family,
Yes,
from your
yes.
perspective, how are decisions made? Who handles the discipline? Do we appear to be a team to you? What does it look like?
Well, it usually depends on the situation. You both handle it usually, but like, for example, if I get in trouble and one of you knows about it, you're gonna talk to him about it, or he's gonna talk to you about it, and then y'all gonna call me in the room, and we're gonna have the little
Come
discussion.
on in the room.
And then by the end of that, I'm usually grounded. So
Okay. So how about, so you talked about from the discipline perspective, which is
Yes.
awesome. That I'm really glad to hear that from your perspective, you see us as a team.
Yeah.
And you know that you're not going to be able to play us off of each other, which often happens in parenting, where the kid only daddy know that I did this. As long as he don't say nothing to mama, I'm probably going to be good. Nope. There should always be constant communication between both parents so the kids can play off each other, and they realize that you're always a united front. Like, I know if I get in some trouble, both of my parents gonna give it to me. Like, I know I'm gonna hear it from both sides.
Yep.
So that was the discipline perspective. But how about like on the side of just decisions about your general life? Things that are going to happen for you. We talking about, maybe school, because we just put you in a new school this year.
Yep.
Those kind of decisions
Private
and
school.
conversations.
You both make those decisions. Like, y'all will talk to me about it. I'll talk to both of you. Or it might be I talk to one of you at a certain time because I feel like it's the right time. And then y'all be like, well, we could talk about it all together, or would you like to talk to them by yourself? And then I'll pick my decision, and that's that.
Okay. So do you feel like you're a part of the family and not just in the family?
What do you mean exactly?
So I'm meaning, do you, when sometimes the people just feel like I'm just in this family, but they don't feel like they really have a say so, they're just kind of existing, but nobody's really talking to them or listening to them. Doesn't mean you're going to always get your way. That's not what I'm asking. But I'm saying, do you feel like that we do give you the opportunity to get your opinion heard?
Yes, but that doesn't mean it's going to be heard necessarily.
Okay. Tell me
Like,
more about that.
You guys will be like, we're going to take your opinion in consideration. But then by the end of it, my opinion it doesn't get chosen sometimes.
Okay.
I have a lot of examples of those.
AKA,
Would you like
don't
them?
get what you want.
Thank you. Yes.
Would you like
No,
those
I don't need
examples?
any examples.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
But you're right. You're right. And if there are any, children tuning in today, what is most important for you all to understand is that if we're asking for your opinion, that means we have taken into consideration, because we don't have to ask for your opinion at all.
Oh, that's true.
Technically, as adults, we could sit back, we pay the bills, and make every decision we need to make. But when we invite you to the table and we say, what are your thoughts on X, Y, and Z? That doesn't mean you're going to always get it the way you want it. And it doesn't mean that the end result is going to be exactly what your opinion was. But it means that we have at least listened to you and we've taken that into consideration. And so that would be my tidbit for other parents out there tuning in and listening. We should always make a conscious effort to include our children in decisions, especially when we're talking about blended families, because they do oftentimes feel like they're left out and not a part of that conversation. Okay? All right, so going back real quick to actually no, we're gonna hit this up real quick. So talking about siblings, because you both have siblings now,
Oh, yes.
and I know for you, Kyla, you have siblings that are by both your step parent and by me, and then Joel, you've got siblings that are by your step parent, because your mom and your stepfather have no biological children together, right?
Correct.
All right. So what was the sibling relationship like with what was your sibling relationship like with the kids that live in your home? And then let's kind of talk about if there's any children that live outside of the home that are also siblings.
Okay, well, my biological dad actually has about 14 kids. I really don't have a relationship with those, and they don't live in my even in my state. They actually live in Lexington, Kentucky, where I'm born and raised. Shout out to Lexington, LEX. But my little brother that actually lived with me. See, my stepdad has 4 kids. 3 of them don't live with me because, they're all older. Well, 2 of them were older than me. 2 of them were younger than me. Mm-hmm. But his youngest child, my little brother Matt, he actually came and lived with us, and he came from a fortunate situation, a very difficult situation, and me and him became close immediately. Mm-hmm. I love him to death. He talk a lot of junk, so I always got into it with him because, it ain't no one-on-ones when it's my family, with my brother. Mm-hmm. I always looked out for him, had his back, so we was real close. We talked about everything. He was my brother, the little brother that I always wanted, because I always wanted a brother, and I never had one up until, my mom got married, so it was like a great feeling, always having somebody to chill with, talk to, play the game. If I had a problem, if I was mad, he was the one that I was going to talk to. Mm-hmm. Even when it came to our parents, like if I was feeling some type of way about our parents, I would always talk to him about it.
Okay.
And vice versa.
So you all grew up close?
Yeah, we were very close.
Did you ever feel, were there ever any challenges in reference to the fact that his biological mom wasn't living with you all, your biological dad wasn't living with y'all, so you all were sharing each other's step parent? Was there ever any challenges with that, or was it pretty?
It was kind of hard because his real mother did pass away, and it was kind of hard when he came up here because we would have to kind of deal with that and everything. But my mom, she took him in like he was her own, and my stepdad took me in like I was his own. So in a sense, we were one big happy family, like always. It was never really any problems. It was just like, it was kind of like, how do you deal with this on Mother's Day? You know what I mean? Gotcha. Like it's
in reference to the day.
Yeah, like I'll share an interesting story. The first week he came one night. He was supposed to sleep upstairs in the loft, and one night he came downstairs. He was crying, bawling, and I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong? He was like, well, I'm kind of afraid of spirits or maybe ghosts or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think he was referring to the fact that his mom had passed away, and I guess he was thinking about it or whatever. And that was the night that we actually became close because I comforted him. I was like, talk to him about it, let him know that he was and is a part of this family, and we're gonna take care of him regardless. Like you're protected here, you're safe. There's no reason to have to, And this is when I'm 12, so it's kind of like it's interesting how it happened, but it made us a lot closer. Yeah, and we were really close all through school, When he graduated, I got him to turn up for the first time, and he talked about it real good. Because, a drunk man tells no lies.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's even a responsibility then in the blended family between the kids.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because it sounds like you all took responsibility of each other.
Definitely.
And helped each other grow and connect to your family. That's good. I had never even considered the perspective of the responsibility of the kids to help make the family work.
It's definitely because it could be a point where your parents could get together and you may hate the other kid. And then how do you expect that to work out?
Right.
You're going to argue all the time, fight all the time, always going to the parents, well, I don't like him, I don't like this, I don't like that. No, if you come together and make everything work, it's going to work. It's only going to work if you make it work.
Love that. Love that. So, Kyla, you got a different perspective, I know. So tell me, how does the sibling thing work for you?
Well, I have 2 very outspoken little sisters. So it's a little different. It's a little stressful with them.
Okay.
They're very fun and loving to be around and things in that nature. But when it comes to the babysitting situation, it's a little difficult because they're so outspoken. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you're not mom, you're not dad, get out of my face. Mm-hmm. And no matter how hard I try to be the nice, big, sweet, loving sister that I am, they always seem to bring out the little Grinch.
But you all get along great, I would say.
They're
and
cool
do you
people.
ever feel that, and I mean, your siblings are younger, so we're about out of time, aren't we? Your siblings are younger, so you may not really have this, but do you ever feel that there's any discord between the two of you all in reference to the fact that Maurice is your stepdad?
No.
And they don't even know, I don't think.
No. Trinity asked me about one time, and I think you guys covered it good because I didn't have an answer.
Yeah, I remember the conversation. She asked us, why does Kyla have 2 dads?
I was like, oh, mom, dad.
Interesting conversation. So, and parents, look, when those kind of topics came up, we were so uncomfortable, and it was a situation we were not even prepared to answer because at the time, she's only 5 now, but at the time she was 3. And I'm like, I don't even know
what to tell you.
What to say. But my advice in those situations is deflect for some time and take some time for you and your spouse to have a conversation about how you want to explain that to your children before you explain it and say something that doesn't sound right or is weird or can really confuse the kids. And so we did take that opportunity to I think we changed the subject and she just went right on with the flow because she was 3. And then we came back to it at a later date. All right, here's what's kind of going on. But we explained it on a level just enough for her to know at the age she is. We don't really have to, parents, just remember that. You don't really have to go into extreme detail when you got younger kids. I also work in the school system, and I've had kids that come in and they can sit and tell me, mama boyfriend, they can give me the whole scoop, and it's just things that kids don't really need to know. So I think as parents, we got to do a better job of making sure that we're only giving our kids age-appropriate information for that time frame. And as Trinity gets older and Journey gets older, your 2 little sisters, we will explain even further more than what we've already talked about in reference to how our family is connected.
Yes.
But you guys have just filled my bucket today with coming in and just sharing your advice. You gave really good tidbits. Can I ask you, can we take 60 seconds real quick? And I just want to get a 30-second answer from each one of you. If there's any kids that are right now listening or tuning in and want to know, how do I make this thing work? I just met my new stepdad, my new stepmom. I don't really like them. They got kids I don't like. What advice would you give to that young person?
My advice would be to be very optimistic about the situation. Don't go in the situation like, oh, he's here, he's taking the place of my dad. No, he's actually helping.
Thank you.
I would just say be open, something similar. Be very open to the situation. Don't think negative, think positive first. Mm-hmm. And then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But, at least try. Be open to try. Because you never, don't put nothing past anyone.
All right. Well, join us next week as we continue our discussion on Marriage Matters. Thank you for tuning in and continue to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m.